As we work through all the areas of the budget together, I'm going to be giving you information and tips on how to figure out most of these expenses. You see, the tricky part is that not only do you need to figure out what your current monthly budget is, but you have to project what your new monthly budget will be once you live separate from your ex. It's important that you work out your projected new budget because it will help you to know what you can afford in new accommodations like rent or a new mortgage, and what you might qualify for in government benefits, or how you will split shared expenses until you and your ex physically separate into different homes, or what considerations you might like to bring into agreement negotiations around, say, spousal support and equalization payments. So let's get into it. The first section of the budget worksheet is entitled Home Related Expenses. The most important part in this section is your mortgage or rental fees. Whatever you're currently paying in monthly mortgage fees is pretty straightforward. If your property taxes aren't included in that number, you can add them to the other row down here. If you plan to sell your home and purchase a new property or buy out your ex's half of the marital home, your monthly mortgage payment is going to change. You're probably going to need to guesstimate what this number will be for now. To accurately know what you qualify for in a new or renewed mortgage, you'll have to meet with a mortgage provider or broker, and you should do this as soon as you get all the necessary financial information collected. However, there are numerous online mortgage calculators that you can also use to at least get an idea of what you might qualify for. I have linked one below. Just remember, these calculators are for estimates only. Alternatively, many people move into rental properties after they separate. This can be for short term or long term. Being a renter is a very different situation from being a homeowner. If this is you, do your research. Check Kijiji, Craigslist, and with local realtors to find out what current rental properties are going for. You need to have an idea of the type of rental you're interested in. Is it an apartment, a condo, a townhouse, or a detached house? And you'll need to know whether a prospective property's monthly rent includes utilities such as water, electricity, and natural gas, or if there are other fees such as condo fees. Next, you're going to need to consider how much money it costs to repair and maintain your current home. So consider the total yearly value and divide that by 12, and then compare that to the maintenance costs for your proposed new accommodations. Homeowners clearly have more of these costs, but renters can have maintenance and repair costs as well. So be careful not to overlook these. For example, renters may need to pay for appliance repairs or painting the walls, while homeowners may need to make roof repairs or replace windows. If you intend to remain being a homeowner, remember that covering maintenance and repair fees from a single income may be really challenging. It's okay to be a renter while working on increasing your income before buying another home. You might need to do this to prevent yourself from becoming house poor, which is where you're spending 30 to 40% or more of your monthly income on mortgage payments, property taxes, maintenance, and utilities, etc. If you're waiting it out to increase your income before buying a new home, you may want to consider consulting with a financial planner to discover ways you can invest your equalization money for the short term and make a little passive income while you're at it. The next section to consider is your personal expenses. Here we find things like phones and medical related costs. In my experience, people often reconsider the mobile phone plan they're on when they're getting separated because they need to find ways to reduce costs. This is one of the places you can often save a few dollars. You can do it by either switching providers or renegotiating your current plan. The same thing goes for your internet and cable provider. A lot of people cut costs by getting rid of cable and simply subscribing to internet streaming services instead. As for medical and dental expenses and related medication costs, these are relative to each individual situation, and you'll have to see if there are any alternative but safe ways to make changes here. If you'll be paying spousal support, you can put it in the other category here. There will be more specific details about spousal support in the spousal support video of this financials module. Don't put child support here, though. That goes in another place. Moving on to transportation expenses now. It's reasonable to expect that you'll have a few expenses from at least some of the categories here. Some of my clients have changed jobs to work closer to home and save money on driving and insurance costs after they're separated. Even if a new job that's closer to home pays slightly less, it's typically balanced out by less travel costs and vehicle maintenance expenses. Also, the extra time that a person gets to spend with family and supportive friends by working closer to home can be a huge benefit while going through a divorce. Some of the other ways I've seen clients save money in this department are to shop for cheaper insurance, switch to a car that has better fuel economy, and some clients have even managed to work from home more, which saves commuting expenses and gives more time for them to be present with their kids. There are a lot of ways that people get creative with lowering their travel expenses, and perhaps you can come up with some ways that suit your situation. Okay, moving on to needs and lifestyle. It's probably not a surprise that this is a category where a lot of people find they can make some changes and save a few bucks. Let's talk about groceries first. So, in the first column, you're going to account for all the money you currently spend on groceries in your combined house. And in the column beside it, you're going to calculate what groceries are going to cost in your new situation, taking into consideration that your children will be with you at certain times and with their other parent at other times. This will reduce your monthly grocery bill, so thinking it through and making a good guess at what this change will be is important. Remember, you can always come back and change these numbers as you learn more and understand more about the changes that will happen when you're living separated. The category of clothing here refers to yourself only and not the kids. That comes later. Of course, there are certain things you can't do without, but many people find that they spend a lot of discretionary income on this category. Toiletries are straightforward, but will probably cost less when you're on your own. Dining out is often a category that people find they can cut back on also. Maybe you can find some creative ways to eat in a little more often, but make it fun, especially with the kids. There are so many themes and celebrations that people can prepare food for at home and save a lot of money while still really enjoying their time together with family and friends. Okay, so in today's age of the internet, it's so easy to subscribe to digital services, make impulsive online purchases, or treat oneself to that neat subscription box that looks like so much fun. However, these things can really add up quickly, and taking stock is super important here. Some people are surprised to discover that they're spending a lot of money a month on this category and more than they would have ever imagined. It might be time to reevaluate and make some changes here to save a bit of money. Pets need care, and these costs don't really change after separation. However, what may change is how the costs are shared. Pets are like children for many people, but nonetheless, they're seen more as property in the eyes of the law. This is a very personal thing, and each divorcing couple will need to figure out what's best for their pet situation. Moving on to travel. This category is purely about travel for pleasure and adventure and not for work, family, or routine life. This is a tough one because a lot of people have enjoyed the benefits of making exotic travel plans based off of a double income, and that usually changes when going through a divorce. Again, only you know what's best for your situation. Many of my clients have discovered that traveling in their own neck of the woods actually has a lot of adventure and entertainment to offer. And while it may take a bit of a mental adjustment, it can actually be pretty amazing. And their wallets thank them too. Next is the insurance section. Insurance is definitely important and not an area you want to save costs on if it means losing benefits that are important to you. As you move out on your own, the amount of stuff you have is probably going to decrease. It's important to reevaluate your needs for contents insurance by taking an inventory of what it would cost to replace everything if you lost it all. At the same time, making a photographic record of your belongings would be a good idea because most insurance companies will require some sort of proof if you ever need to make a claim. If you're a renter, tenant and contents insurance will be what you need to have. And if you're a homeowner, you're going to need mortgage and contents insurance. Make sure that you've got the right kind. Life insurance is important for most people to have. If you'll be paying child support or spousal support in Canada, then you'll be required to have it. If you live somewhere else, you'll need to look into the laws for your country, state, or province. I'll explain how to figure out what amount of life insurance you need in the spousal support video of this module. Even if you're not a support payor, having life insurance is a good idea because if you were to pass away, the beneficiaries of your policy can use the money to help care for your children, And you can designate some of the money for helping them pay for college or buying a home of their own one day or something else. Term life insurance usually has low monthly premiums and can give you some peace of mind in this department. You'll need to reach out to an insurance provider or broker to look into things if you don't currently have a policy. Car insurance is something that may be able to be reduced by getting an insurance broker to look into your options. All it requires is a phone call. Pet insurance is a personal thing, and depending on your situation, it can range from cheap to expensive. It's something you and possibly your ex will need to decide on for yourselves. For job related expenses, perhaps you need special clothing that's not covered, or certifications, or annual dues that you need to pay for. These expenses aren't likely to change after you're separated unless you switch jobs. As for bank fees, many divorcing people will need to open up new bank accounts, and this is a good opportunity to shop around a little and see if you can get a deal in lower fees. As for credit card payments, making changes around existing credit cards can be a little complicated, and I'll cover it more during the videos on debts, but there may be ways to reduce and possibly eliminate these costs altogether. So, finally, we've made it to the expenses related to your kids. This has been kept separate because depending on whether the kids live with you most of the time or some of the time, you can see some pretty drastic differences in these columns. Being aware of these changes for your own situation will help you to plan for the ups and downs in monthly spending that are child related. And if you're receiving child support, these categories will help you to see what you might need help with in extra expenses. For more information about child support and extra expenses, you should check out the parenting module of the Hack Divorce course. So make sure you purchase it if you have kids. Okay, so first we have childcare. When you get separated, your expenses may go up or down or stay the same in this category depending on the changes you might make. For the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to assume that childcare needs stay the same. Entertainment is a personal thing, and some parents can or choose to spend more on this than others. This can include eating meals out, going to movies and performances, and travel for pleasure, etc. Entertainment is not typically a consideration when it comes to child support, so you're probably on your own in how you make decisions about this. If you have less money to spend, then you'll need to make some lifestyle changes. But many parents find creative ways to have fun without needing to spend so much money. School trips, school fees, and tutoring will typically be considered extra expenses for your children. As such, they're expenses you and your ex will probably share in some way. In my demonstration here, I'm assuming that each party will pay for half of these expenses. More about extra expenses will be covered in the parenting module. Finally, clothing for the kids depends on your situation. Of course, your children need clothes no matter what. How these expenses are taken care of usually depends on your residency arrangement. So, child support may be expected to cover a portion of this category if the children live primarily with one parent, or it may be a shared expense if the kids spend time equally between parents. Again, I'll address this more fully in the parenting module, but you can take a good guess at what this might look like for now. So, looking at the totals here, you're going to see what your projected monthly expenses will be for your kids. Knowing these numbers is going to help you to know what you might need to ask for or negotiate around when working through the parenting aspect of your arrangements. Okay, so we're done figuring out what your estimated actual expenses are going to be, and now it's time to look at your sources of income. Your net employment income is your take-home pay after taxes and deductions. It's the money that you get to keep and spend. If you get bonuses with your work, figure out what they amount to yearly, approximately, and then divide by 12 to get a monthly figure. Government benefits can sometimes be calculated online depending where you live. I'll give some links for Canadians below, and there will be more in-depth information in the parenting module about this. Child support and spousal support can be figured out using online calculators. Again, we're just working with estimates here, and more information will be given in later videos about how to figure out more accurate numbers. You can use the online calculator link below to get an idea of what this might look like for you. If you'll be paying child support, you need to include that in the other category under kids. And if you're paying spousal support, you can include that in the other category under personal expenses. Finally, maybe you have investments that pay you some money. You'll need to figure out what that amounts to in a monthly value and put that here. So, totaling up these two columns, you're going to see the financial reality of the changes to your income. This is super important because the more knowledge you have about your finances before you start divorce negotiations, the more power and creativity you can engage to make changes and goals that will help you to rebuild your life in meaningful ways. Finally, let's move on to the summary. You'll notice that to begin with, we add up the expenses in all of the sections except for the kids. This is what it costs to run your home and personal life. Next, we add the kids' expenses in so that we can get the big picture of how much money you're going to need in total to make your finances work. Last of all, we take the total income you expect to earn and subtract your total expenses, and hopefully we have a positive number. Any leftover money is your discretionary income and can be used to buy and do things you want, or it can be saved or invested. If for some reason you find that your expenses are too high, then you'll need to reevaluate areas that you can cut back on, and in some cases, it may mean changing your prospective housing arrangement, getting a higher paying job, making other big changes, or negotiating more help and support. While this can be a little shocking, trust me, it's better to know this at the beginning of your divorce process than to be surprised by it later. If you need to make some big changes, now's the time to access the help and insight of some of the people in your support circle and possibly paid professionals also. Creativity can go a long way in making positive and unique changes, so don't forget to brainstorm a bit. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to grab your copy of my indispensable resource for writing your own separation agreement, the definitive sourcebook of family law separation agreement clauses. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.